Hello everyone, welcome back to the phone museum. Today we are just a little in-depth review of these specs, and I will compare with the previous one of Duoqin F21 Pro as well. By the way, this one is F22 Pro. Let's start with the operating system. For the operating system, most of small manufacturers, they are not really give a good software update. So it is really important that they ship with the newest software. But thankfully, both F21 and F22, they shipping with the newest operating system when this phone was launched. So this one, at the time, the newest operating system, Android 12, as you can see. And for previous model, F21 Pro, of course, it's shipped with the Android 11, which is the newest operating Android version at the time. So that's good. But F21, it didn't get an Android 12 update, and highly likely this model will not get Android 13 either. Now, let's talk about the brain of the smartphone. So we will talk about the processor. Both model F21 and F22 both using MediaTek's Helio, but F21 they use MediaTek Helio A22. Even at the time, A22 was very low and spec, but thankfully for F22 they upgrade to Helio G85. More in detail about those CPU, Helio A22, which has F21, 2 GHz clocked, Cortex A53 quad-core, but as you heard, Cortex A53 quad-core is about 10 years ago, used to use for mid-range or low-end spec. Of course, at the time, like Snapdragon 410, which has Cortex A53 quad-core, but that time it was 28 nanometer with 1.2 GHz to maximum 1.4 GHz or 5 GHz. But now, of course, the clock is higher, 2 GHz, and a 12 nanometer TSMC process. So it's better than at the time, but still the base architecture is A53. So you cannot expect too much from the Duoqin F21 Pro. And GPU, it was using Imagination Technology Power VI GE8320 dual cluster clocked in 650 MHz. And also RAM support up to LPDDR3. And there's a modem inside of the AP, which of course does not support any 5G. And even 4G is up to category 7, which is support download maximum 300 megabit per second and 100 megabit per second for uploading. But for F22 Pro, they're using Helio G85. So Helio G85 is a GPU overclocked version of Helio G80, and Helio G80 is CPU and GPU overclocked version of Helio G70. So in this video, I will talk about Helio G70, 80, 85, and then 88, which is a little bit minor upgrade version of G85. First of all, CPU is use the big little architecture. So the big core is use Cortex A75 dual core, and little core is use Cortex A55 hexacore. For the big core, all the AP, the G70, 80s, it use 2 GHz CPU, but for the hexacore, G70 it use 1.7 GHz, but 80s, so 80, 85, 88, they're using 1.8 GHz. And this combination is like around 5 or 6 years ago, similar to the Snapdragon 670. So CPU, you can expect similar to a 670. And for the GPU, unlike Helio A22, G70 and 80s, they're using a Mali GPU, a Mali G72, which has dual cluster, but clock is more vary, depends on the version. So G70, it use 820 megahertz, G80, it use 950 megahertz, and 85 and 88, it use 1 gigahertz. And for the RAM, A22 is support all the way LPDDR3, but newer one, G70 and 80s, they support all the way up to LPDDR4X. So it's gonna be much faster. And for the process, is exactly same process, the TSMC's 12 nanometer. And also G80, 70 and 80s, they also have a modem inside of the AP, which is, of course, does not support any 5G network, but it supports LTE all the way up to category 13. But for the uploading is same as A22, which is a category 7. So uploading maximum 100 megabit per second, downloading maximum 400 megabit per second. So since we already talked about the 7080, so the overall, the little chart. So 7080s are CPU, GPU, RAM, inside modem, all same. The difference is 80s are 100 megahertz higher little core than 70, and GPU is 80 is 130 megahertz higher than 70, 85 and 88 is 180 megahertz higher than 70. Also, G88 and 85 looks exactly same, but 88 support a 1080p 60 hertz refresh rate. That means 85 and below, they support up to 60 hertz. And for the maximum resolution of a rear camera, it was 64 megapixel instead of 48 megapixel. So anyways, that was a little extra talks for the APs. So just talking about the like architecture and stuff, it's like doesn't ring the bell, right? So how the performance looks like. So easy to compare. So I researched a little bit of the benchmark score and stuff. So Helio G85 is CPU, GPU speed are similar to Exynos 8890, which is from Galaxy S7 or S7 Edge, which is 2016 flagship AP. And also similar to the Snapdragon 670, which is 2018 high-end or mid-range performance. And of course, if you compare with like 2022 flagship, like Exynos to 2200, then of course they're way shorter than 2022 flagship processor. And also let's talk about this little tiny screen. So this screen is before F21 Pro, has 2.8 inches with 640 by 480, which is 286 ppi. But now they increase all the way up to 3.54 inch with 960 by 640, which is 326 ppi. Before the F21, it might have some problem with running apps because of the low resolution, but now it's higher resolution than previous model, so might have a less problem than previous model. And if you know some technology, probably like you're interested in smartphone, this size and resolution sounds a little familiar, right? Because it is same size as iPhone 4 or 4S and same resolution as iPhone 4 and 4S. But the display is not AMOLED display. I prefer AMOLED, but this is just basic LCD display. And it's not, and the color space is not as wide as other displays, which is like same problem with the other cheap device. And the screen size is 3.5 inch at the time. The 2007 or 2010, it might be like big enough size to do everything, but now 3.5 inches are way too small, and so it's hard to use it right now. But the PPI is 326 PPI, which is same as iPhone 11's pixel per inch. So you don't have to big worry about like pixels popping out and stuff. You don't have to worry about it. And also an iPhone 5 and 6 series have some the little yellow or greenish tint on the edge. This one so far so good, does not have those issues. It might happen, but doesn't happen yet. And for the camera, F21 has same position as F22, which they put in the little hashtag button. I don't know why. There's enough bezel, but they decide to put it here, which is very, very uncomfortable use. So you have to take a picture like this. So very uncomfortable. And when you're doing the like video call, it's uncomfortable to hold like this and stuff, because you're looking at the people face in the bottom, not the top. So they decide to here, and it is what it is. Anyways, both are 2 megapixel front facing camera, but F21 has 5 megapixel rear camera, but this one have 8 megapixel rear camera. For the quality, is still not good. Still not good. I review of the camera quality in 2 different video, but I will talk in here again, because maybe you don't want to watch that video again and stuff. So let's go in here. For the camera app, I usually use for the Google Camera Go application instead of their stock camera application. I will review in detail about the default, the basic apps and stuff. But even either apps, they don't have the HDR feature because this camera lens is not capable with HDR. So when you taking picture in outside, nice sunlight, then you can capture nice the sky color, but you cannot capture the object in detail. It's gonna be really dark. And when you take a picture in the dark environment, indoor or whatever, then the picture has a lot of noise. Also, it's having hard time to take a focus. And also, this one does not have OIS, and front and back both have aperture f2.8. So especially at the dark environment, it's easy to get shaked picture and darker picture than other phones. And of course does not support any night mode and whatever, and no panorama mode. So don't expect those kind of stuff. And for the video, front you can take HD 720p video, and back for HD 1080p video. And now let's talk about the battery. The battery, F21 has 2120 milliamps battery with support all the way up to 7.5 watt. But now this one, it has a little bit increase, 2150 milliampere battery with 10 watts charging support. So in my usage pattern, I can use around 6.5 hours on screen on time. And for the charging battery from 0 to 100, it takes around 1 hour and 25 minutes. When you look detail in the charging speed, from 0% to 80%, every 10 minutes is charged up around 13 to 14% of the battery. But from 80 to 90, in 10 minutes, it charged 10% ish. And then over 90, it charged 6% in 10 minutes. This is same for all other smartphones because they try to protect the battery. So 1 hour charge from 0%, 80%, no problem. And I kind of wanted to mention about the global navigation satellite system. So this one support GPS, GLONASS, Beidou, and Galilei. But I don't know why, but this is really having hard time receiving the signal. And even I'm using the map, the error is quite big. Even I'm in the district, it's showing other street. And it's very slow and cannot capture my current location. So when I'm using the map, I'm already in different city, but it's still showing in previous city. So I don't know what is problem. Maybe it's just my mother's problem, but I had those GNSS problem with this smartphone. And also, this one does not have magnetic sensor or gyro sensor. So magnetic sensor is when you're using map, it show where's the north, but this one cannot capture the north. So usually top is gonna be just north. And doesn't have a gyro sensor, so some like a Pokemon Go, sometimes need gyro sensor to play game and stuff. You cannot play or you cannot watch like 360 video. You have to using your finger to rotate the scene, those kind of stuff. So yeah, so basically I was trying to talk about this back in the basic review video, but I felt like it's gonna be way too long. I read the script and it's like over 2 page. So okay, let's make separate video and let's see how it works. So please leave a comment. Do you like the in detail specs review in separate video instead of like merging together, or you like everything in one video? You don't care about the 1 hour or 2 hour? Let me know that in the comment, and thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video. Thank you.